I was born in a small town in the Midwest and left at an orphanage by my parents. However, after I built my own career, my parents came back, asking for money for my achievements. What I vividly remember is the cold, impersonal atmosphere of the orphanage. It was a creepy place where the cries and screams of children seemed to be sucked away. During those days of tears and fear, I felt like just another lonely child. My name is Michelle Sanders. I was left on the steps of a hospital when I was little, with only a blanket wrapped around me and a piece of paper with my name on it. Life in the orphanage was tough. I didn't feel close to the other children, and the adults seemed to just watch us with cold eyes. I quickly learned that showing weakness made me a target. Older kids would mercilessly push my small body aside, call me by nicknames, and even take my food. The adults were completely indifferent to such situations. We were just a group of unwanted children, and the adults had no interest in our suffering. At age 8, it seemed like a new life might finally begin for me. The Sanders couple adopted me. Unable to have children of their own, they visited the orphanage, promising kind words and a good life. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope because of their warmth. I put my hopes in their kind words, wishing for the end of my difficult days. However, when I was taken to the Sanders home, their apparent kindness quickly fell apart. They were cold, and their reason for taking me in was not love or compassion, but rather they needed hands to manage their large house and garden. They clearly told me, "You are here as a worker, not as a family member," whenever I broke the rules. There was no mercy in their punishment. If I left dirt while cleaning or forgot to water the plants, severe punishment awaited each time. At night, I was locked in my room. School was also a terrible situation. At school, I could feel that the other children saw me as different. There was no warm family to welcome me when I returned home. At school, I was bullied, my books were knocked out of my hands, my ragged clothes were mocked, and I was hurt by relentless words. I tried to focus on my studies and pretend not to care, but it was not easy. Just like the orphanage staff, the teachers did not seem to care about their behavior. With no one to rely on and enduring reality, I desperately continued to study, finding my only solace in reading books, which allowed me to escape reality. Spending long hours in the library, I read stories of people who had overcome difficult situations and encouraged myself. I fervently prayed that one day I would go to college and escape this situation for a better life. When high school graduation came, I was able to attend a state university on a scholarship. It was the beginning of a new life for me. It was an opportunity to let go of past suffering, but college life had its own trials. Without anyone to support me, I had to live alone for the first time. I worked multiple part-time jobs alongside my studies, and during my freshman year, I was always exhausted. I hardly got any sleep, and my days were filled with studying and work. I wanted to make friends, but the constant fatigue and financial worries made it difficult to interact with others. In college, just like in high school, I felt a bit distanced from those around me. Working various jobs, the local diner was a lively place and a blessing for covering my living expenses. The owner, Mr. Richardson, who was expressionless but kind-hearted, understood my difficult situation and often let me take home leftover food, which really helped me. However, the other staff did not see me as part of the team, viewing me instead as a competitor for shifts and tips, and sometimes they scheduled me for mean shifts. That's when I met Martin. He was a junior, and one of the few people who were friendly to me. We first met in the library, reaching for the same book at the same time. He laughed easily, and his smile made me smile naturally too. Eventually, we started studying together, and everything seemed to be going smoothly, but life is a series of unexpected events. One night, on my way back to the dorm, I was surrounded by men who demanded my wallet. Confused, one of them pulled out a knife. I handed over the little money I had, and they ran off. I was frightened, and bruises remained on my body. I reported it to the police. but there was no real effort to investigate. This incident made me realize once again how alone I was. Martin tried to be supportive, but he had his limits. I didn't want to involve him in my own problems. He had his own life and worries. I didn't want to be a burden to him. That's why I tried to distance myself from him. The pressure and sleeplessness tormented me, and I felt suffocated. Long hours at the diner and endless study sessions. Finally, I collapsed in the dorm. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, surrounded by the beeping machines and white walls. The doctor said it was due to stress and lack of sleep, but I felt it was just the surface of my issues. It seemed like all the pressures of life were suddenly bearing down on me. Martin came to the hospital and held my hand worriedly, saying, "It's going to be okay," but I couldn't bring myself to believe him. After enduring days of suffering, I couldn't just believe that everything would be okay now. I pushed him away again and vowed to become stronger. The more I desperately studied and tried to catch up, the more it felt like I was spinning my wheels. It was like climbing a mountain without seeing the goal. Then one day, an event that would change my fate occurred. I was called by the dean, my heart pounding with anxiety. I was prepared to receive a recommendation to drop out due to poor grades, but an unexpected turn of events awaited me. I was informed by the dean that I had been selected as a candidate for a prestigious internship. The internship was at a company at the forefront of the field I was studying. I felt this was a chance to significantly change my life. I accepted the internship with the intention to make the most of this opportunity. That company, Neurocrest Systems, is a leader in the technology industry. Working there was literally a moment my dreams came true. I threw myself into my work with all my might. The internship was tough, but it was also very rewarding. For the first time, I truly felt like I was contributing as part of something significant. The connections I built and the skills I acquired there are invaluable, offering a perspective on the future that I had never felt from my previous experiences. Throughout this time, Martin supported me. As he healed, our bond deepened, and now we have become indispensable to each other, and I feel happy. The internship was fulfilling, my grades improved, and everything seemed to be getting better. However, an unbelievable event was waiting for me. One day, while working overtime at Neurocrest Systems, I accidentally came across shocking documents. The documents revealed that the company had been using dangerous methods to cut costs, risking people's lives with illegal activities. I was at a loss for what to do, but even as an intern, I couldn't overlook this fact. I gathered as much evidence as I could and reported it to the authorities. It was a risky move, but I couldn't just ignore it. As a result, the company labeled me as a troublemaker trying to stir up problems, and they tried to discredit my evidence, but the proof was conclusive, and the facts were made public. Several executives were arrested, and the company was fined heavily. I lost my internship opportunity and found it difficult to get rehired in the industry, but I have no regrets about my actions. Above all, having Martin by my side enabled me to overcome this ordeal. I graduated from university with uncertainties about the future, but I overcame the difficulties and managed to find a job at a small tech company. The company wasn't as well known as Neurocrest Systems, but it was a place where I could work honestly. Martin and I started living together, and for the first time I felt like I was building a real family. It wasn't a perfect life, but having each other was enough to feel fulfilled. We shared dreams of building a family and took steps towards the future. Supporting each other, our past struggles were transforming into happiness, but life, as always, comes with its challenges. One night I was suddenly attacked by strangers. Several men approached us, demanding money. When I resisted, one of them pulled out a gun. A scuffle ensued, and after a flash, I felt an intense pain like never before. When I opened my eyes next, I was in a hospital. The room was filled with the smell of disinfectant. A familiar scene spread before me. Martin was by my side, tears in his eyes as he held my hand. I had been shot, but I had survived. The men were arrested and justice was served, but the event left a deep scar on me. I was once again confronted with the fragility of life and the uncertainty of the future. As time passed, I slowly began to regain my normal life. Recovery was painful and took time, but throughout it all, Martin was my constant support. His presence gave me the strength to keep looking forward. I realized from the bottom of my heart how irreplaceable he was to me. He was not just a lover, but my best friend, my partner, and most importantly, my most cherished person. Then in the fall, under a tree with leaves turning golden, I proposed to Martin. The moment he said yes, tears of joy sparkled in his eyes, and it felt like all the past suffering and difficulties had disappeared in an instant. We got engaged, and the months leading up to our wedding were filled with excitement and preparations. We decided to keep everything simple. It was a warm ceremony that suited us, shared with close friends and family. It was the happiest moment of my life. I vowed to love and live life together with Martin. Afterwards, we danced late into the night, surrounded by the smiles of our friends and family, receiving their blessings. At the wedding, it was clear everyone there truly cared for us. The honeymoon was a blissful escape from reality. But as is often the case with life, reality quickly pulls you back. One day after returning home, I received a call from Frank, a friend from university. He knew about my struggles at Neurocrest Systems and wanted to meet to talk. We reunited over coffee, and it felt as if the years we hadn't seen each other were just an illusion. Frank had always been an honest and trustworthy person. He was working at a cutting-edge technology company and told me about a fantastic career opportunity. The company, named Nova Tech Solutions, was involved with state-of-the-art AI technology. They were looking for someone with my skills, and it felt like a perfect opportunity to restart my career. I also wanted to gain experience there. After hearing from the team at Nova Tech Solutions and being deeply impressed by their innovative vision, I was invited to join a project developing advanced AI systems with the potential to be useful worldwide. The salary was high, and the benefits were excellent. Frank explained everything in detail, and I ultimately decided to trust him and take the job. The job was going smoothly, filled with fulfillment and challenge. Everyone around me shared a passion for technology. Martin was happy to see me positive about work again and supported me enthusiastically. We moved to a new apartment, which felt like home the moment we opened the door, a warm and inviting space. However, after a few months, I began to feel a slight discomfort at Nova Tech Solutions. Staff would whisper among themselves or suddenly stop talking when I entered the room. At first, I didn't pay much attention, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One day after work, my colleague Nora approached me. She is a software engineer, highly insightful. Nora had been with the company longer than I had, and our relationship was good. She took me aside to a secluded spot, saying there was something she had to discuss. She began to talk about some information she had stumbled upon. While working on a data security project, she discovered that Nova Tech Solutions was collecting personal information without user consent and selling it. She showed me the evidence. I was shocked. It was clear and unacceptable. I felt a strong sense of déjà vu. This situation was even more troubling than what had happened at Neurocrest Systems. I was deeply involved, and it could impact my own reputation. I knew I had to take some action, but now I had Martin by my side, and we could think about the future together. Wanting to calm my unrest even slightly, I decided to show the evidence to Frank. After hearing the story, he said that Nora was mistaken, and it was better not to listen to her. He assured me that everything was normal, and there was nothing to worry about. But her evidence troubled me, and my anxiety did not subside. That night, after Martin had fallen asleep, I decided to investigate further myself. I examined company documents and emails, seeking more evidence. The situation was more serious than I had anticipated. Nova Tech Solutions was not only selling data but was also manipulating information that could impact political events and social movements. They were taking dangerous risks, and I was merely a part of it. I told Martin everything. He looked worried but supported me in taking action that I wouldn't regret. Together, we thought about the next steps. Realizing that revealing the truth could put us both in danger, I struggled to gather more evidence. One evening, while I was copying files to a security drive, the area outside our apartment became noisy. Looking out the window, I saw a car across the street, with people inside who were clearly watching our apartment. Feeling that I was under surveillance, my heart pounded fiercely. I hurriedly finished copying the files and hid the drive in a place where it couldn't be found. The next day, similar to what happened with NeuroCrest Systems, I handed the evidence over to the authorities, which led to an immediate investigation and significant repercussions for the company. Nova Tech Solutions was forced to cease operations, and Frank, along with several executives, were arrested. The investigation revealed that Frank had known about the misconduct from the start and had deceived me. He had tried to silence me, using our relationship. Shocked by this revelation, I was at a loss for words. I had lost a job and a friend simultaneously. Regaining lost trust is incredibly difficult. His betrayal left a deep wound in my heart, and I had no idea what to do next. Martin and I decided to take some distance from everything that had happened. We left the apartment and rented a cabin in the mountains. The clear air and quiet environment were healing for me. We enjoyed hiking, reading, and simply taking our time at the cabin. This time in the cabin provided us with the rest and emotional healing we truly needed, as well as time to reflect. One day while hiking, we stumbled upon an old cabin. Though it was weathered, there was something captivating about it. Martin and I explored the cabin and the surrounding land, enjoying unexpected discoveries. We discussed how wonderful it would be to restore the cabin and turn it into a vacation spot for ourselves and our future children. This idea gave us a new dream. We decided to buy the cabin and spent several months renovating it. Working together was challenging but also fulfilling. We poured our hearts into the renovation, making it a symbol of our love and recovery. When it was completed, it felt like we were making a fresh start. The cabin renovation became a symbol of the life we were building together. I began to think about my career again. I wanted to stay in the technology sector, but I became cautious about working for large corporations. I felt a strong desire to engage in meaningful work that could have a positive impact on the world. After careful consideration and discussion with Martin, I decided to start my own company. The goal was to focus on ethical AI development within a technology firm. The road ahead seemed daunting, but I was resolved. I reached out to former colleagues and mentors, forming a team with those who shared my vision. We started small in a shared office, but the passion and drive of the team members were evident. We worked towards the goal of creating technology that contributes to society without compromising ethics. Initially, we faced challenges such as fundraising and developing our first product, but gradually, our business began to get on track. We launched our first ad-based platform designed to improve the operational efficiency of nonprofit organizations and social enterprises. The response from users was better than expected, and as the company grew, our customer base stabilized and expanded, deepening my relationship with Martin as well. Together, we overcame numerous difficulties, each challenge strengthening our bond. We celebrated moments of success and supported each other through tough times. Martin became not just my life partner but also a reliable partner in business. One day, while organizing old files, I found a message from someone I hadn't been in contact with for years. It was from the Sanders couple, my foster parents, who had learned about my company and wanted to reconnect. Reflecting on what they had done in the past, I felt a mix of surprise and confusion. I was hesitant to rekindle the relationship, but Martin advised that it might be worth listening to them. In talking to them, I could feel they had become calmer over the years. They apologized for their past behavior and expressed that their love for me was genuine. They regretted their mistakes and hoped to be involved in my life again. Although it was a difficult decision, I chose to give them another chance to build a relationship. I believed people could change and intended to see if this change was genuine. Rebuilding a relationship with my foster parents required time. I had to overcome past wounds and mistrust, but gradually, I began to slowly trust them again. They showed genuine interest and care for my life. While it was challenging, moving forward allowed me to let go of some of the long-held anger. Martin and I faced another new challenge. We had hoped to start a family, but after trying for a while without success, we decided to consult a specialist. The diagnosis was very hard for us. We found out there were fertility issues, and the possibility of a natural pregnancy was extremely low. We were deeply shocked by this news, but we resolved not to be defeated by it and decided to overcome this in our own way. We carefully considered various options such as fertility treatments and adoption. It felt like a journey with emotional ups and downs, but we supported and trusted each other through it all. Ultimately, driven by our desire to pour our love into a child, we chose to adopt. Through the process, we were reminded of the joy of having a home and being with family. The path was long and fraught with difficulties, such as paperwork, interviews, and a waiting period, but eventually we met a girl who seemed destined to be with us. The first time I held her, I was overwhelmed with indescribable feelings. In that moment, I felt that all the struggles and efforts had been worth it. We decided to name her Claire. She brought a warm light into our lives. Parenting involves many sleepless nights, but it marked the beginning of a new life filled with endless joy. Watching Claire grow and learn on her own taught us anew about the resilience of life. No matter how difficult the path, there is always hope, and opportunities for happiness never disappear. Martin and I cherished the daily happiness as we lovingly raised our daughter Claire. My company was also growing smoothly, and I thought we had finally settled into a rhythm of life. I thought we would continue to live tranquil days, maintaining fulfillment in work, family, and personal life, but that was only temporary. It all started with a call from an unknown number. Normally, I would ignore it, but this time I answered. The voice on the other end was Kelly's, my biological mother, whom I hadn't heard in decades. I was so shocked that I almost dropped the phone. She spoke in a subdued, hesitant manner, but her words carried an urgency that I couldn't ignore. Kelly had found out where I was through a mutual acquaintance and wanted to meet me in person to discuss something important about the family. I had no reason to refuse. Somewhere in my heart, I wanted to know why she had left me. We reunited at a cafe. Kelly looked like a different person from the one I remembered. Her face seemed marked by years of hardship and regret, and she was not alone. Jeremy, my biological father, was there with her. He looked exhausted, but there was a chilling coldness in his eyes. Although we started with formal greetings, I quickly sensed they had an agenda. Kelly and Jeremy were facing significant difficulties, burdened with debts and unable to make ends meet. Now that I was successful, they implied that it was my responsibility to help them. I felt a chill during that conversation. The people who had abandoned me were now demanding money as if it were their due. I went home filled with anger and helplessness. When I got home, Martin was waiting for me, and he was outraged when he heard the story. Both he and I were appalled by their audacity. We hoped that ignoring Kelly and Jeremy would make them give up, but instead, they continued to contact us relentlessly. Over the following weeks, the calls and messages from Kelly and Jeremy increased, conveying their desperation. When they realized I had no intention of giving them money, their tone shifted from pleading to threatening. They threatened me with information that could be very dangerous to my reputation and business. It was outright blackmail. Though I rejected their demands, it caused me immense stress and mental strain. The tension between Martin and me grew, making it difficult to focus on nurturing our relationship and caring for Claire. Uncertain of how to handle the situation, we sought legal advice. Our lawyer, Juliet, a woman of sharp judgment and honesty, assured us that we had strong legal options even if things escalated. The threats from Kelly and Jeremy only worsened. One evening, I found a threatening letter taped to our front door. This incident pushed me to the edge. I decided to file for a restraining order against Kelly and Jeremy. Juliet explained the process to us, and a temporary restraining order was issued, but they continued their harassment without pause. They used new phone numbers and fake social media accounts to persistently bother us. Then, one night, they came to our house, banging on the door and screaming. I felt pushed to my limit. I immediately called the police, and they were arrested, but we still did not feel safe. Martin and I realized the severity of the situation and that we needed stronger measures to protect our safety. Juliet advised us to take legal action, and we decided to file a lawsuit for harassment and attempted extortion. A trial date was officially set. I anticipated that this trial would be a long and tough battle, but I was determined to stand up to those who had caused me great suffering to protect my family. The courtroom felt very oppressive. Kelly and Jeremy's lawyer was a man named Stanley, who was a formidable character. He portrayed me as an ungrateful child and made it seem as though I was being cold to my suffering parents. However, Juliet was thoroughly prepared. She submitted evidence of the threats and harassment, clearly demonstrating their attempts to extort money from me. The trial lasted several weeks, during which I was mentally exhausted and physically ill from stress. Martin was always by my side, attending every court session with me, holding my hand tightly, and reassuring me that we would get through this difficulty. Claire was too young to understand what was happening, but she felt the attention and often clung to me. Facing Stanley's attacks, there were moments when I doubted if I was doing the right thing, but every time I looked at Martin and Claire, I was reminded that I was not in the wrong. This was not just about money, it was a fight to protect my family from the people who had hurt me. Kelly's testimony was the most shocking. She emphasized her own suffering, regretted giving me up, and tried to draw sympathy. However, during Juliet's cross-examination, many inconsistencies in her testimony were revealed, proving that Kelly and Jeremy were not victims but had created their problems and were now trying to manipulate me. The decisive moment in the trial came when Juliet disclosed Jeremy's criminal record of fraud and extortion, which he had kept secret. The courtroom was shocked, and the trust they had tried to build completely crumbled. It was clear that their motives could not be sincere. The jury's deliberation felt very long, though only a few hours had passed. Eventually, a verdict confirming our victory was delivered. At that moment, I felt a deep sense of relief. As a result of the verdict, Kelly and Jeremy were officially given a restraining order, forbidding them from any further contact with us. Additionally, they were ordered to pay the legal costs. This victory may seem small, but it was a significant event for us. After the trial, our lives gradually returned to normal. Martin and I regained our sense of security, and we improved the security system for Claire's sake. We also kept in touch with Juliet, discussing preventive measures for the future as needed. This ordeal left a deep scar in our hearts, but it also strengthened our family bond. We supported each other more than ever and grew closer. I also found new meaning in my work. My company began to focus more on developing ethical AI solutions. Feeling the positive impact of our projects on society was motivating. After months of battling in court, we were finally able to find some peace. One day, I received a letter. It was from Kelly. She apologized for everything that had happened and explained that she had been coerced into the scheme by Jeremy. While sorting out my feelings, I was inclined to believe her words and considered giving her another chance, but I also remembered the pain and betrayal of the past and thought it over carefully. I consulted with Martin, who advised that a calm decision was necessary, and that it was best to take our time. Ultimately, I decided to write a reply, setting clear boundaries and stating that I needed some time and distance for now. Kelly's response was more understanding than expected, respecting my choice and willing to wait, no matter how long it might take. It was a small step forward. I felt that we were moving toward healing, but I knew it would still take time to restore trust. Meanwhile, life continued unchanged. Claire grew up quickly, her bright and inquisitive nature bringing endless happiness to our lives. Martin and I cherished every moment, grateful for the bonds our family had built, and we increased our weekend trips to the cabin, finding peace in the quiet of nature. My company also continued to grow successfully, launching several projects. We deepened our collaborations with nonprofit organizations and educational institutions, helping our technology contribute to societal transformation. The battle in court was incredibly tough, but it taught me the importance of standing up for myself and my family. Joining forces and standing together, we found strength, and we were reminded of the power of love and support.